I'm back, Biffy. Let me know when Karen Cox is on the line. Biffy, I can't hear anything, which is okay, just so you know, though.
Stop to a few things. Right now, the D.C. establishment has all the power. The For the People Act will stop that. Billionaires buying West Virginia's elections? The For the People Act will stop that. Politicians and their families getting rich while we pay for it? Yep. The For the People Act will stop that too. Senator Manchin, you've always had West Virginia's back. Don't stop now. Stop corruption in its tracks and support the For the People Act, paid for by Represent Us. It's time we put a stop to a few things. Americans voting on machines that aren't made in America? The For the People Act will stop that. States using hackable voting machines with no paper trail? The For the People Act will stop that. Elections with no way to do careful audits or recounts by hand? Yep, the For the People Act will stop that too. Senator Manchin, you've always had West Virginia's back. Don't stop now. Stop election interference and support the For the People Act, paid for by Represent Us.
Does your dog need groomed or walked? Are you looking for a pet sitter or dog boarding options? If so, call Dirty Paws, Wheeling's newest pet care service, providing the Ohio Valley with everyone's pet care needs. Check us out on Facebook at Dirty Paws WHG or call 304-639-7754.
Hi, this is Joe Mullins with the Radio Ramblers. We've been thankful to perform throughout the state, the U.S., and beyond, featuring bluegrass music, homegrown here in Ohio. We are certainly ready to get back on stage in front of audiences and at festivals and concerts after we have enough people vaccinated in the state. The COVID-19 vaccine will let us all get back in business doing what we love. Please roll up your sleeve. Ohioans have come a long way, and we can't afford to stop our efforts now. Don't procrastinate. Vaccinate. To schedule a vaccine appointment, see gettheshot.coronavirus.ohio.gov or call 1-833-427-5634. That's 833-427-5634. Do it today for a healthy Ohio as soon as possible. 1-833-427-5634.
Ohio. I'm heading home to you. I'm not buying till I checked on Ford.
Most of us are faced with uncertainty every day. Your job, your finances, sporting events, schooling for your children, and so much more. With so much uncertainty surrounding you, there is one auto dealership that you can be certain about, and that's Doane Ford. You can be certain that you always get a great deal and the best service afterwards. Being in business for over 50 years has given Doane Ford the reputation of being a strong, reliable dealership. Be certain. Choose Doane Ford. Online at DoaneFord.com.
I'm not buying till I check Doane Ford.
Are you or your loved ones facing a serious legal battle? The law office of Paul Harris wants you to know you aren't alone. Do you need someone that's not afraid to go to trial and fight for your rights? Attorney Paul Harris and his team are willing to go where most firms are not. The courtroom. With a successful track record in civil litigation, criminal defense, including tax issues and healthcare fraud, Harris Law Office will fight for their clients by offering the most aggressive representation in and out of court. Call Paul Harris at Harris Law Office for a free consultation. 304-232-5300.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster. Weather look at your local weather forecast for your Tuesday. Partly cloudy skies. Daytime high near 70 degrees. Partly cloudy through the evening and the overnight. Below near 48. You'll see mix of clouds and sunshine continuing for your Wednesday with highs in the lower 70s. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
What is this?
This is show business.
Getting crazy, being unpredictable, that's your brand.
Who's ready to entertain?
To entertain folks. Intensive good radio's preparation. Oh, you're not prepared for this. What is happening here?
I like your free-flowing format.
They got great banter. They you get.
It's totally different.
We should start the show. Okay, it's showtime!
Something to think about, something to laugh about, and something to talk about every day. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe. Brought to you in part by Wheeling Hospital.
Well, we're starting to get a better day now. Started off foggy, very, very foggy. Now the fog is pretty much gone. Clear skies out there. Sun is looking pretty good. 52 degrees now at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. 52 here at my home studios in the Elm Grove section of Wheeling, and 52 degrees at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. Going to be probably the best looking day of the week this week today. Temps will be 67, 68 up in that general range. The patchy fog is gone now, and we should be pretty sunny all day long, so enjoy yourself. 52, as I mentioned, at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. 52 at my home studios, and 52 at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. Lunch with books today at the Ohio County Library. Again, still can't get into the library because of COVID, but there is a live stream Lunch with Books program today. It's called On the Plains in 65, the 6th West Virginia Cavalry in the West. So that'll be coming up today at the Ohio County Library. If you want to check it on their Facebook page or their YouTube page, a live look at that event. That's coming up today at noon at the Ohio County Public Library. And Biffy, sometimes things change. Right before the break, we're just done telling you about basketball coming up this week, and now after the break, we need to tell you that never mind, right?
Yep, that will be the case.
We had a game scheduled for tomorrow night. Wheeling Central. No, it was tomorrow night.
Thursday night.
Yes, that's right. Tomorrow night's baseball. Wheeling Central Magnolia is scheduled for Thursday night. Off the table because Magnolia played Valley, who had a COVID case. So once again, Central's just had these problems all season long and all football season long too, Biffy, with not themselves, but teams that had COVID or played teams that had COVID and so on. So the Central Magnolia game is off on Thursday, and then apparently the Central Charleston Catholic game scheduled for Saturday is also canceled. Because Charleston Catholic doesn't want to travel that close to the playoffs. So, as I said, all that we told you before the break, never mind.
So basically what that just did to our schedule means you're going to hear a lot of West Virginia baseball over the course of the remaining weeks, starting on Wednesday against Marshall. Friday, they have a series against Texas Tech starting at 7 o'clock Friday. Then they play game 2 at 3:30 on Saturday. And the final game of that series will be 12:30 on Sunday.
All right, so Mountaineer baseball will be your sports of the weekend here on the Watchdog. 9:15, quarter after the hour. Later on today, or maybe tomorrow, depending on our timing goes, I want to run down some of the bills that passed and didn't pass in the legislature in West Virginia. 60 days of disaster in my mind in the legislature down in Charleston. We followed it pretty closely. And it was hard to keep track of what bills had actually made it all the way through. You know, it might pass the House committee, then go to the full House, then it's to go to the Senate committee and go to the Senate, and that got to come back. And you know how that whole thing works. So one of the bills that did not, I repeat, did not, one of the very controversial bills, did not see fruition was the bill that would have prevented the removal of Confederate monuments. A lot of debate over that. We debated it here on this show quite a good bit. A lot of distress from a number of our local delegates like Lisa Zukoff and Sean Fluharty, who pointed out that West Virginia, for God's sake, we were created by the South and forming our own state because we don't want to be part of that. Why in the world would we protect Confederate monuments? But it is part of a general trend. Now, again, it didn't pass in West Virginia, but it is part of a general trend. Karen Cox has written, she's a professor of history at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, a lecturer, a writer, and a book she's got called No Common Ground, Confederate Monuments and the Ongoing Fight for Racial Justice. And she's here with us right now. Karen, good morning. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. Glad to be with you.
Tell me, because I think one of the things that people don't understand is why are Confederate statues anathema to those who believe that they are racist? Why are they perceived as a racist statue or racist monument, I should say?
Well, they have a long history of being perceived that way because it goes all the way back to when the first monuments were being put up in the 19th century. African Americans responded to these statues as statues that represented, that were honoring men who fought to perpetuate human slavery. And then, you know, a new generation, when a lot of these monuments went up in the early period of Jim Crow, they went up against the backdrop of a lot of racial violence. And at every step in their history, Confederate monuments sort of sat at the center of racial controversy.
And the timing, as I mentioned, there was a debate about this in our Washington legislature this past year. One person tried to show a depiction of the timeline of when monuments showed up and where they showed up. And some from the other side said he wasn't allowed to use it. But the point he was trying to make was how so many of them came out during the era of Jim Crow laws because they were kind of designed whether or not to be intimidating to African Americans.
Well, I think that the ultimate purpose was to establish that white men were in control of government. And these are the same, a lot of these things, these monuments, these statues went on the grounds of courthouses and state houses at a time when legislation is being passed that ensures segregation and second-class citizenship for African Americans. It also happens to be the case that on those same courthouse lawns is where many of the lynchings took place across the South. So there's this connection between racial violence and these monuments, but also it's a symbol of white supremacy. It's a symbol because they're placed on the courthouse grounds or the state capitol grounds, which are places where laws are made, and if the people inside the walls of those institutions are passing laws that relegate people to a second-class citizenship, then it's hard not to make the connection.
But you know as well as I do, you've heard the arguments, we hear it all the time, why this is not racial, this is not in any way anti-African American. We're simply trying to celebrate Southern heritage and reflect the history of the Confederacy. I guess, is that a legitimate argument? And if it's not, how do you counter that?
Well, I think they're in a state of denial if they think that's what's going on. You think, in recent years and the controversies over these things, what happens, during when they feel like they're threatened, these people show up with waving Confederate battle flags, which have long been used as a tool of racial intimidation. It's not a benign heritage. And I think what happens is people think they've romanticized what the Confederacy was about. They've romanticized their ancestors, and as people, and somehow in their minds, the war itself had been stripped of the institution of slavery, which is just insane. And so you cannot separate the bad from the good. You just can't do that. And that's what people are trying to do, is saying, well, it wasn't about slavery, it was about states' rights. But it was the states' rights to perpetuate slavery is what it was about. And so you can't just literally whitewash history.
The language, in addition to the monuments, is used to make that point. You hear about the War of Northern Aggression or the lost cause, one of my favorite phrases, the lost cause we hear talk about anymore.
Yeah, the lost cause was basically the white South mythology about what had taken place. It was a way in which they could deal with defeat, and it was often presented as a just cause, not just a lost cause, but a just cause. And people, and that is something that's been perpetuated generation after generation from the end of the Civil War to the present. That it was somehow justified. It really wasn't about slavery. It's essentially a mythology that makes people feel good about themselves.
The building of monuments, I think, has slowed. We don't see as many monuments made, or any monuments made. I don't know if any is right, but not many to commemorate Southern heritage anymore. But it seems as if the efforts to protect them have really grown in recent years. Again, West Virginia had a bill introduced this year, which I really thought was going to pass because there was a huge support for it, sadly, among the legislature, but it did not. But it seems like we're seeing more and more efforts being made to protect these monuments.
Oh, absolutely. Legislatures throughout the region, except in Virginia, which is, seen a reversal, is now democratically controlled, but in GOP-dominated legislatures throughout the South, they've been doubling down on this issue as part of their culture war. And so what you have is that, and many of these laws went on the books after the Charleston massacre in 2015. And so, and what they're doing is if they didn't already have a law in place, they're putting one in place. And if they had one in place, they're, strengthening them by putting more teeth to them so that removal is just impossible. But what they I don't think they, these they're often called monument laws or these heritage protection acts.
Heritage protection.
And and they're actually having the actual opposite effect. Rather than protecting the monuments, what they've done is create frustration among people so that they end up vandalizing the monuments. They don't have a legal path for removal, and so what happens is you see people vandalize the monuments because there's no legal recourse.
What got you into this area of study?
Oh, I've been studying it for 30 years. I was working in a museum in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and stumbled upon the United Daughters of the Confederacy, and I wrote a book about them. And then all these years later, I could not have imagined that I'd still be having conversations about monuments. That they are primarily the group responsible for putting up the vast majority of these. So here I am.
All these years later, still doing it.
All these years later, here I am, and this may be of interest to your audience. I'm originally from Huntington, West Virginia, but my family moved to North Carolina when I was a young girl, and I grew up down in North Carolina and have lived here most of my life. But I certainly have been interested in. I have followed a little bit what's going on at the state capitol.
I'm a child of the 60s and living through the civil rights movement, and I really thought we had turned a corner at some point, late 60s, early 70s. And now it seems as if, from the larger perspective, not just monuments, but the relation between whites and blacks, it seems like it's gotten worse, not better.
This is true. I mean, anytime there's a little bit of racial progress, then there's blowback. There's efforts to try to stop that, stem that tide, and turn it back in some ways. And after the Voting Rights Act in 1965, you saw the election of black representatives to city councils and eventually in the state offices and the like. But after only about 15 years, about 25 years of progress, you begin to see pushback in the 1990s, and it's then you begin to see the first efforts at gerrymandering districts and so voting districts, and so so there's a blowback then, and then it seems like and we may have had our first black president, but there's been enormous pushback on racial progress, and the Voting Rights Act was gutted in 2013. So we keep going backward.
Well, and we certainly had our first black president, but we also then had a real pushback against that with the next president, who really emboldened and empowered. I don't know what word to use, racism, white nationalism in this country. I mean, let's be honest about it. Donald Trump was a friend of the white nationalists. My opinion. You don't have to agree with that, but that's my opinion. And
they're very fine people, he said.
Yeah, exactly. Very fine people on both sides. Yeah.
On both sides, and so even white nationalists like Richard Spencer said, that the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally would not have happened without President Trump.
And
he said that.
Yes, he said. Yeah, and the problem is that they're becoming bolder. I shared with my audience earlier this morning. There is a gentleman who has. I don't know if he's filed, but he issued a press release yesterday that he's going to run for Congress out of our area in the 1st Congressional District. Who has white nationalist background, who has represented as a campaign consultant and a staffer for white nationalists and for anti-Semites. And now he's running for Congress. Or he says he's going to run for Congress. I want to be careful about that, but he's at least announced he's going to right here in the 1st Congressional District. When I first started talking about this, I remember one of the first interviews I did with a guy that he actually was a member of the KKK. And he was running for office in Eastern Ohio. I remember the first words I said to him, I said, something came slithering out from under a rock and is in my studio right now. My point being that once upon a time, it was something that you hid. You didn't want people to know quite what you were. These days, here I am. Here's what I am. And that's to some extent due to Donald Trump. I think it began before that, but he certainly emboldened people to speak out and to no longer have to hide what they are.
I agree with you on that, and again, I think that it had been building beforehand, but it's almost like he created an opening for them to just to come out in the open. People don't need their Klan hoods anymore.
Exactly.
They embrace white nationalism and embrace white supremacy openly.
Before I let you go, I want to come back to monuments for a second, because I'm never quite sure what it is we should do with Confederate monuments. We don't venerate them. We don't give them a place of honor in our state capitol or on our lawns of public places. But if we take them away, are we not taking away history? Are we not denying the history of the reality of the Confederacy? What should we do about this?
No, I mean, the fact that they're divisive symbols that do sit on the lawns of courthouses and state houses, which are supposed to be democratic spaces, makes them problematic, right? And so, but here's my response to the whole erasing history argument. No history is being erased. A monument's removal does not mean its destruction. History is you'll always know the history of these things in photographs, in postcards, in speeches, and in history books. Just written a book. And other people have written books about Confederate monuments. There's a lot of evidence, a lot of historical evidence that exists. History is not being erased. What's happening is a symbol of racial divisiveness would be removed, if it's removed at all. I don't know what, these decisions are up to states and local communities, but if a statue is removed, all that's being removed is an icon of divisiveness. The history itself will always be available to anyone who wants to read about it.
Is there any value in the idea of taking monuments off of public squares, of course, excuse me, and putting them in some kind of an historical, monument park or something that shows the reality of the Confederacy without just simply taking them out of public sight altogether? And I don't have an answer to whether I think it's a good idea.
No, that has been offered as one solution, right? And some there have. What we've seen is a number of solutions. One is to move them to the local cemetery where the actual, Confederate dead are buried. And some have said, maybe to the site of a historic museum or, history museum. There are a number of options, and those options really have to be hashed out in a local community that wants to remove a monument if that is a possibility. But as we discussed earlier, states across the region have written legislation that would prevent local communities from doing anything about it.
When we've talked about this here on the show, some people have said to me, well, Howard, we still have a Holocaust museum. Why can't we have a Confederate statue museum? And, of course, the thing I point out is that Holocaust museums focus on the terrible effects of the Holocaust. They don't venerate those who
Exactly.
who created it. You know, we don't put them on horses and show them as heroes. We show the horrible effects of it, which I think is a little bit different than what a lot of people talk about when they talk about, you know, a monument. I don't know what I'm looking. Monument Park or something of that nature. It's a little bit different,
Right.
and I think that's the difference between some of these Confederate statues or Confederate monuments in general, because it's not all statues. And again, an example of the Holocaust, where we really focus on the horrors of what happened, not venerating those who did it.
Right. Well, these are, you know, I think there is, I want to say the SCV in Tennessee is creating something along the lines of what you're talking about, some sort of park where these statues might go. You know, if these things are on private property, then, you know, they can do whatever they want, you know, with them and present them in any way that they would like to present them. I think the problem is and has been for over a century, is that these statues are part of the community. They're in the public square, and that's what makes them divisive.
Yep. The book is called No Common Ground, Confederate Monuments, the Ongoing Fight for Racial Justice. Karen, I appreciate your time this morning and your books. Worthwhile reading for folks who want to get a good sense of how this whole debate that we're in the midst of right now came to be, and maybe where it's going as well. Thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Thanks for writing the book, too.
Sure. Thank you so much.
All right. Have yourself a good day. Karen Cox, the book is called No Common Ground, which is, that's almost the phrase of America anymore. No common ground, right? It's just, there is no common ground. 9:35, 25 before the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. What's happening in the Ohio Valley today? Well, we'll find out. Bob Westphal from the Big 7 will be coming up to talk about that. Which way are gas prices going? Want to take a little bit of time to talk about that. Coming up in the next segment of the show, and a few other odds and ends as we head into the home stretch. Dave Wilson still on today on Statewide Talk Line beginning at 10:06. Among his guests will be, of course, our good friend Brad McElhenney talking more about, well, I guess the legislature. There's still some legislative activity, legislative fallout maybe is a better word to use, legislative fallout that's still going on. Brad will talk about that. And in fact, we'll talk about that with our quick Capitol report after we check headlines right now for Metro News.
The Metro News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
age of 102. Mr. Coyne began working Pirate home games in 1936. It's estimated he worked more than 6,000 games, from Forbes Field to Three River Stadium to PNC Park. He officially retired in April of 2018. Another day off for the Pittsburgh Penguins, but they'll be back in action Thursday night with their newly acquired veteran, Jeff Carter. By the way, the Penguins Thursday will host the Philadelphia Flyers. Be safe. Be considerate of others. Please check on the elderly. I'm Bill DeFabio on sports, and we are the Watchdog.
You know, there's variety shows, and then there's, well, my variety show. I'm Bill DeFabio, and I bring you the best variety talk in the Ohio Valley, quite possibly the world. Join me from noon till 2 to talk sports, nostalgia, and hear from some of the legends of the game. You won't believe who I have on next. The Bill DeFabio Variety Show, noon till 2 on the Watchdog.
There's something so real about living local, and I know without a doubt I'm not alone. And I love living local. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. Said I love living local. WTRF is working for me. The Ohio Valley is where I love to be.
Hi, this is Joe Mullins with the Radio Ramblers. We've been thankful to perform throughout the state, the U.S., and beyond, featuring bluegrass music, homegrown here in Ohio. We are certainly ready to get back on stage in front of audiences and at festivals and concerts after we have enough people vaccinated in the state. The COVID-19 vaccine will let us all get back in business doing what we love. Please roll up your sleeve. Ohioans have come a long way, and we can't afford to stop our efforts now. Don't procrastinate. Vaccinate. To schedule a vaccine appointment, see gettheshot.coronavirus.ohio.gov or call 1-833-427-5634. That's 833-427-5634. Do it today for a healthy Ohio as soon as possible. 1-833-427-5634.
Ohio. I'm heading home to you.
Does your dog need groomed or walked? Are you looking for a pet sitter or dog boarding options? If so, call Dirty Paws, Wheeling's newest pet care service, providing the Ohio Valley with everyone's pet care needs. Check us out on Facebook at Dirty Paws WHG or call 304-639-7754.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the Watchdog trusts.
A serious injury from an accident can be just the start of your worries. What if you cannot return to work? How do you take care of your family if you're disabled? At Gelner Law Offices, we represent seriously injured people and understand their problem. We know how to get you fair compensation. We will work hard to make sure you get the money you deserve for your losses. Don't go it alone. If you're hurt in an accident, call us at 304-242-2900 or visit us at gelnerlaw.com.
We'd like to help.
Hey, I'm going to the kitchen. Can I grab you a Coors Light?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Huh. I never knew there was a zip line in my fridge. Hey, buddy!
Yeah!
You got 2 Coors Lights up there?
You got it!
Always brewed down to 34 degrees. With a taste as cold as the Rockies, only Coors Light gives you refreshment every time.
Here you go. 2 Coors Lights.
Awesome, man. Wow, these are really cold.
That's the only way I deliver it.
Sure. I mean, you being a mountain climber and all?
Yep.
You probably need a pretty warm coat in there, huh?
Yep.
Hey, Ben!
Yeah!
Ask him if he has any nachos.
You got any nachos in there?
No.
Just icy cold Coors Light?
Yep.
That makes sense. It is the Rockies.
Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. With great beer comes great responsibility.
Now, during the Jim Robinson Ford Lincoln Toyota Pre-Owned Super Sale, select from over 80 vehicles in stock starting under $5,000. Most are local trades, many with one owner. Hurry to Jim Robinson at the Highlands, home of lifetime powertrain protection. Now, during the Jim Robinson Ford Lincoln Toyota Pre-Owned Super Sale, select from over 80 vehicles in stock starting under $5,000. Most are local trades, many with one owner. Hurry to Jim Robinson at the Highlands, home of lifetime powertrain protection.
Hi, this is Joe Mullins with the Radio Ramblers. We've been thankful to perform throughout the state, the U.S., and beyond, featuring bluegrass music, homegrown here in Ohio. We are certainly ready to get back on stage in front of audiences and at festivals and concerts after we have enough people vaccinated in the state. The COVID-19 vaccine will let us all get back in business doing what we love. Please roll up your sleeve. Ohioans have come a long way, and we can't afford to stop our efforts now. Don't procrastinate. Vaccinate. To schedule a vaccine appointment, see gettheshot.coronavirus.ohio.gov or call 1-833-427-5634. That's 833-427-5634. Do it today for a healthy Ohio as soon as possible. 1-833-427-5634.
I'm heading home to you. Clarington. The Watchdog is protecting your yard. Join Howard Monroe, Hoppy Kercheval, Bill DeFabio, and Big Rick for the best live and local talk in the Upper Ohio Valley and beyond. Clarington trusts the Watchdog.
From the West Virginia Broadcasting Hall of Fame, directly to you. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe, brought to you in part by Wheeling Hospital.
So, during the break, I'm just skimming through the net, looking at a few news stories, checking Twitter and so on, and I come across this article from Newsweek magazine, newsweek.com, the most and least educated states in America. And I'm thinking to myself, come on, Mississippi, please be there, Mississippi. They failed us. Mississippi failed us. The least educated state in America, Biff?
West Virginia?
Yeah. We're number 50. Mississippi is 49, Louisiana 48, Arkansas 47. All of the ones that you sometimes hope we can beat, at least leave us not be the anchor at the bottom. No, in this one we're right down dead last, 50. They looked at a variety of different factors. Let me see if they tell us what they looked at. They looked at population older than 25, 7 educational different items they looked at, ranging from individuals who are not educated past the 8th grade to those who have graduate and professional degrees and so on. In West Virginia, number 50 in the country, 4.3% have less than a high school education. 8.8% have gone through 12th grade but did not get a diploma. Now, this is good. The GED's working. 40% high school graduate or equivalent. So we've got 40% that have graduated or have gotten the GED. Some college, no degree, 18.6%. Associate degree, 7.3%. Bachelor's degree, 12.4%. Graduate or professional degree, 8.2%. Our education index is at 91.45, making us the least educated state in America. Mississippi comes in at number 49. They're at 92.23 on their education index. So is Louisiana. Couldn't we have just bumped it up a little bit? We could have beat them. They didn't come through for us this time, Biffy. Sometimes Mississippi and Louisiana, they come through and help us out.
Yeah, the South didn't help us out this time.
No, they didn't. So we ended up dead last. You can check the article at newsweek.com if you like to. I don't think I'm even going to bother to post it on. It's depressing. Maybe I'll post it on Facebook and Twitter coming up a little bit later on. It's 12 before the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. I didn't get around today to doing a complete list. I want to give you one last time a complete list of bills that passed and didn't pass, or the critical bills. There were 290 of them, but the critical bills that passed and some that didn't pass, because it is confusing. I wanted to do that today. I didn't. We'll definitely do that tomorrow on the show. But we're still seeing some aftermath of the legislative session, and so Jeff is continuing the Capitol report throughout the week this week.
This is the Metro News Capitol Report.
The governor just doesn't get it. When he takes everything so deeply to heart, and he criticizes in the most aggressive way, and people are going to respond to that. And it was just a very typical reaction. Probably many in the House would have preferred to have had ongoing debate about the income tax bill, but they weren't able. They didn't feel they wanted to move it through in one day. They were so totally different from the Senate version, and they were going to just let it quietly die. They're going to let it quietly die. And the governor came out on Friday and, they're cowards. They're chicken. They won't do it. They won't take a vote. Okay, as I said yesterday, they said, "You want to vote? We got your vote right here." And they took that 0 to 100 vote because the governor, jabbed him with the stick. Jim Justice, subtlety is not his long suit, Biff.
No, it is not.
He's not particularly subtle. Is Bob Westfall subtle? I don't know if he's subtle, but he shares news with us every day. So he's here right now from the Big Seven. Good morning, Bob.
I am as subtle as a sledgehammer.
I've heard that about you. Looks like they caught that guy that they were looking for making terroristic threats, I guess, huh?
Yes. Apparently he was caught in Pittsburgh. Get some details right now, but apparently he made a social post, which kind of, if you're on the lam, that's probably not a good thing to do.
Not the wisest thing to do, no.
So actually, yes, he has been arrested. Apparently a SWAT situation, a whole kind of situation this morning. So I guess we'll find out a little more about this situation this afternoon. But he is in custody, which is good news. Several threats, schools We know that Central was locked down here in East Wheeling. Not sure what else was locked down or who else was threatened, but we've talked to Philip Stahl with Wheeling PD, and right now we're working to get video of the situation, the arrest, so we'll have that hopefully up on social media here shortly.
All right. Well, the good news is that he was caught. Now, again, the whole backstory I'm not totally clear on. It sounds like we're still trying to sort out exactly what he did, but he made some threats, I guess bomb threats and other kinds of threats. We know to Central and to other institutions, but I don't know else to whom else. And I'm just glad he's caught. Now we can figure out what's going on next.
Right. So we'll have the latest on that. Obviously, he'll have to be extradited back here to Wheeling, so it's not like a case we're going to be following for a while. So we do have that. The bigger story today is Johnson & Johnson and vaccine. Yeah. We were talking before I came on with this situation. Johnson & Johnson, they've decided to pause the use of the vaccine. Cases of clotting. We're going to talk. Jim Justice just came out. The White House released a statement. The White House statement says something to the effect of they're working with state and federal partners that anybody that has been scheduled for the Johnson & Johnson, they hopefully quickly reschedule them for Pfizer or Moderna. So obviously we know people that were planning to get the Johnson & Johnson this week. So that's on hold, at least for the time being. So that's the big story. We're going to be talking to Howard Gamble, Rob Spall in Belmont County to find out how that affects the local. Governor DeWine, if you remember, he was going to have all college-age kids vaccinated with the Johnson & Johnson, so because it was one shot and you were done. We're getting a response from him on how that stands and where they're going next on that. So that's a huge kind of rolling ramifications for one vaccination. Again, the White House said it's only 5%, excuse me, of the recorded shots in the United States, but still, you figure 5%, that's one shot, double it. Now you've got twice as many shots for the same 5%. So it's going to be an interesting situation, I think.
And the White House statement, I believe, said that those who did develop these blood clots, they were severe. I mean, it's not a minor reaction. It was a severe reaction for those who did get it.
Yeah, my understanding is there has been one fatality.
Okay, so it may only be a small percentage, but it's a pretty big deal for those who get it. So the pause is the phrase they're using, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. It's a reminder, Bob, that we're still sort of feeling our way through this whole vaccine thing.
Right. Yeah, it's a different time. So it's learning things as we go, I guess. Sadly, it's a little more difficult than we thought. We're kind of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, just hoping it's not a train. This is just something else that we've got to. I hate to say that. I mean, it's kind of have to tough it out, I guess. Yep. And see what happens on the other side.
Yep, absolutely. What else are you working on?
All right, a couple other things today. I'm going to talk to a cancer survivor who's written a book. He worked with Dr. Merrick, and he's in remission. He's in good shape, but he just felt like he needed to get his story out there. So Catherine's working on that. She interviewed both Dr. Merrick and the book's author, so we're excited about that. So that's a good story,
Yeah.
Something a little positive on a day like today. So we're going to have that. Let's see what else we got. Gas prices. Gas prices are down in West Virginia. AAA just released that, so we've got that. And of course, we're following up on a few other things. Dealing with got a hearing about in Marshall County. Don't have a lot on that right now. Michael Bowman. So we'll have that. So a little bit of everything today.
All right, and the weather's going to be nice today, so that's good. And we'll have it all today at noon, 5, 6, 10, 11, 5:30, the statewide show. And, of course, simple and easy thing to do, keep in touch with WTRF.com or your Facebook page throughout the day for the developments as they happen.
And if you haven't downloaded the new app, you really should. It is fantastic. It is a remarkable piece of science. So we're excited about it.
It's on my phone, I'll tell you. All right, Bob, I appreciate it. We'll talk to you. Let's see, is tomorrow a day? Yeah, we'll talk to you on Thursday, I guess.
On Thursday.
All right, thanks a lot. Bob Westfall from the Big Seven, checking in this morning here on the Watchdog Morning Show. So a couple of developing stories. The Johnson & Johnson story. I'm guessing that Dave Wilson, filling in for Hoppy, may have some more on that coming up in the next hour of the show. We'll probably talk some more about that tomorrow here on this show as well. I kind of plan to do some COVID conversation tomorrow, so that'll tie in with that. And then, of course, the Big Seven will follow it for you. Plus, the fellow from West Virginia who was wanted in Pittsburgh for terroristic threats, including against Wheeling Central, has been arrested. It was sort of a SWAT-like situation earlier this morning. Details coming up from the Big Seven. But as for now, I got to say sayonara, see you, bye-bye, farewell. Good Lord willing, creeks don't rise. I'm back tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock. Another go-around of the big gig. Are you back with me, Biff?
I'm here for a Wednesday.
We'll keep on doing it till we get it right.
That'll be a long time.
Indeed.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Is recommended.
All right, Biffy. Not too bad. I didn't do all my breaks, but we got everything in, I guess, right? All right. I'm not sure tomorrow. I was going to do a final follow-up to the legislature, but Howard Gamble just got back to me from my email I sent him 3 weeks ago. And Wheeling Heritage just got back to me from about a week ago where I was trying to get him to come on and talk about this remote worker program. So I got to shift things around a little bit, so we'll see what we're doing. But we have plenty to get into tomorrow. One way or another, we'll make a day of it. I will be around all day today. I'll probably be at the playground this afternoon. If you need me, just give me a call. All right, appreciate your help as always. Thanks very much. All right, talk to you tomorrow. Bye.
Getting pulled over and handcuffed. He had a big heart. He loved basketball. He had a 2-year-old son that's not going to be able to play basketball with him. He had sisters and brothers that he loved so much. He was an uncle, a grandson.
Police say the officer accidentally fired her gun instead of her taser. The family says they want her held accountable. There were protests again last night in the town of Brooklyn Center. ABC's Stephanie Ramos is there.
Trash, bottles of water, glass littered everywhere. You can probably hear the street sweepers making their way through, trying to clean up this mess.
40 people were arrested in overnight protests. The prosecution could rest its case today in the Derek Chauvin murder trial. Consumer prices jumped sharply last month. 0.6% increase, the biggest since 2012. Inflation over the past year rising by 2.6%. This is ABC News.
I struggled with symptoms like frequent gas and stomach pain for years.
I was bloated all the time with daily diarrhea.
At first, I thought it was what I was eating.
I kept thinking it was